Secretary Sullivan, if you would begin, we'd appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning. Good morning, Ranking Member Cardin, members of the committee. Thank you for inviting me here today to provide an update on the administration's South Asia policy, particularly as it applies to Afghanistan. I want to begin by offering my thoughts on Afghanistan in light of my trip to Kabul last week and talk about how we are engaging together with our partners across the interagency in a regional approach in South Asia to bolster stability in the region and in Afghanistan in particular. During my trip, I was first and foremost able to extend in person our condolences, thoughts, and prayers to the hundreds of victims and their families, all of those who were affected by the recent terrible acts of violent terrorism. The United States remains firmly committed to supporting the Afghan people and their government's efforts to achieve peace, security, and prosperity for their country. While in Kabul, I met with President Ghani, Chief Executive Abdullah, and other Afghan partners. Every leader reiterated their support for our strategy and their commitment to creating the conditions that will bring the Taliban to the negotiating table, as Senator Cardin mentioned in his opening remarks, thereby establishing an environment for sustained peace. These leaders also reaffirmed their support for the Afghanistan Compact, a series of benchmarks established by the Afghans to implement reforms in security, governance, rule of law, economic development, and peace and reconciliation. President Ghani and I co-chaired an executive committee meeting of the Compact where we reviewed and highlighted progress on those benchmarks. I also discussed with the Afghan leadership the critical importance of timely, credible, and transparent elections. It's vital that parliamentary and presidential elections take place this year and next, respectively, and that they reflect the will of the Afghan people and create an inclusive government that continues to implement these fundamental reforms. In addition to shifting to a conditions-based approach instead of one predicated on arbitrary timelines, the South Asia strategy marks a change from the status quo in U.S.-Pakistan relations. We intend to hold Pakistan accountable for its failure to deny sanctuary to militant proxies. We also encourage restraint in Pakistan's military, nuclear, and missile programs and seek continued closer alignment of Pakistan's non-proliferation policies with our own. We continue to value our relationship with Pakistan and recognize the benefit of cooperation. Pakistan has played an important role in pushing al-Qaeda closer to defeat, combating ISIS, securing its nuclear weapons, hosting Afghan refugees, and, importantly, providing access for supplies and equipment used by U.S. and Afghan forces. We also acknowledge the enormous sacrifices the Pakistani people and security forces have made to combat terrorism. We have shared with Pakistan our South Asia strategy in detail and have made our expectations clear to Pakistan, emphasizing that they must take decisive action against all militant and terrorist groups based there. In January, the President suspended security assistance to the Pakistani military, with limited exceptions for programs that directly support U.S. national security interests, which would be decided on a case-by-case basis. We may consider lifting the suspension when we see decisive and sustained actions to address our concerns, including targeting all terrorist groups operating within its territory without distinction. The United States is committed to doing our part to reduce tensions in the region in ways that address Pakistan's legitimate concerns. To be clear, we oppose the use of terrorist proxies by any country against another country anywhere in the world. The use of terrorism has no place in a rules-based international system. We hope the Pakistanis will also help to convince the Taliban to enter into a peace process. We continue to deepen our strategic partnership with India. Secretary Tillerson traveled to New Delhi for consultations in October 2017, and we expect to launch our inaugural 2+2 dialogue with India in Washington this spring, when Secretary Tillerson and Secretary Mattis will meet with their Indian counterparts to further deepen our security ties. The United States and India share economic and humanitarian interests in Afghanistan. India has allocated more than $3 billion in assistance to Afghanistan since 2001. India further strengthened ties with Afghanistan with the signing of a development partnership agreement last year. We appreciate these contributions, and we look forward for more ways to work with India to promote economic growth and security in Afghanistan. The United States is also strengthening our partnerships with the Central Asian republics, where we are committed to supporting their independence, territorial integrity, and sovereignty, and fostering regional connectivity. 2 weeks ago, I attended a C5+1, the C being the 5 Central Asian republics plus the United States, in a discussion on Afghanistan at the UN Security Council, where we discussed our bilateral and multilateral efforts to support Afghanistan and enhance Central Asian cooperation. Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan provide important logistical access for supplies and equipment used by U.S. and Afghan forces. These initiatives and others have helped the effort to build stability in Afghanistan and provided better security and more economic opportunity for the people of Central Asia. Despite recent setbacks stemming from the horrific and senseless acts of violence we witnessed recently, the President's South Asia strategy is showing some signs of progress. On the battlefield, we're seeing the Taliban's momentum begin to slow. No major population center has fallen to the Taliban since its temporary occupation of Kunduz city in 2015. Afghan forces are now on the offensive. Our allies and NATO partners, contributing more than 6,500 troops, are actively supporting our vision for a stable Afghanistan and a more prosperous South Asia. And in the Afghan government, we have a partner that is tackling economic, political, security, and governance challenges, including corruption, that have greatly hindered progress to date. Thank you, and I look forward to answering your questions.
Thank you very much.